Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our afternoon content sessions. Thanks for rejoining us. I hope you had some good meetings in the interval. Delighted to introduce our panel session on artificial intelligence, AI and technology to scale up quickly after the pandemic. We heard a lot about digitization this morning, and we are going to explore the application of AI in our operations. Big thank you to Informed, Ekkehart and the team for being our content spotlight sponsor here today. So I'm going to introduce our panel and then look to get the debate underway. I believe we've got a short video which we'll kick off with. We are joined today by a mixture of different stakeholder groups to give us a view on this one. We have David Preuß, who is Chief Information Officer at Cologne Bonn Airport. Welcome to you, David. We have Donald Lum, who is SVP and Head of Group Technology at SATS. Welcome, Donald. We have Jan-Willem Kappes, who is Director of Business Development EMEA and APAC at Assaia International. Welcome to you, Jan. Good to have you back. We are joined by Yusuf Incekera, who is the Head of Operations Center of Excellence at AirAsia. Welcome to you, Yusuf. And last but not least, of course, we have Ekkehart Vetter, who is Chief Technology Officer at Inform. Welcome to you, Ekkehart. Thank you, gentlemen. So we're going to get underway with a short video, and then we're going to come to our discussion points. So if we could play our video any second now. And there we go. Okay, interesting stuff. Thank you very much for that teaser piece there. And as we saw, we do need artificial intelligence right now to help us out of some of the challenges we face coming out of this pandemic. During the pandemic, operations needed to be transformed, established processes have been modified, new approaches have been invented. We need more resources, we have longer turnaround times to cope with. So gentlemen, I'll kick off by asking, what are the significant challenges you are facing now in this recovery phase? Who would like to go first on that one? Yusuf.
I can go the first, okay.
Go for it.
Good afternoon, Asia. Good morning, Europe. In this context, the first challenge for us as an airline is the closed international borders and the counter lockdowns. I mean, domestic travel restrictions. In Asia, we are heavily facing this, not like in Europe maybe. Our international borders are closed, if we talk about Malaysia, since last March. And then domestic travel is open and close, and currently we are in a stage that last 1.5 months, we do not have any domestic travel unless we have permissions from the government authorities to travel. Secondly, we can say that the vaccine supply is a bit slow. when we compare to the other parts of the world. These are the biggest challenges currently we are facing, which is affecting our operation. If I need to speak with some numbers in the group flight, we were departing 1,600 flights a day. Now yesterday it was 57. Today we are expecting 62 flights.
Lots of change to cope with in a short space of time. Ekkehart, do you want to come back on some of those points and discuss this?
In terms of the turnaround times, if I jump there, we do have some differences from the other airlines. What we have done, apparently, once the COVID started, we engaged all our teams. We started brainstorming ideas that what's going to happen, how we are going to manage the turnarounds, what are the terminals are doing, what measures we are going to take, how it is going to extend the timings, what will happen. And then we decided, we think that, okay, this advantages is already there, but we do have some advantages as well. So what is the disadvantage? Mainly as a low-cost carrier, we do not performing the cabin cleaning during transit. So this came into place. Be able to agree in a solution between the cabin crew and the ground staff, and be able to drop it to 7 to 8 minutes, the disinfection period. And then this was the biggest disadvantage. What we take as advantage, we knew that the passengers will be more conformist. They will follow the rules. It will be easier to queue them. There will be certain controls in the airports. The airports will not be engaged. We don't have a gate problem. We don't have a security queue problem. So we said that in the end, we don't change the ground time. We stick on the existing ground time. And then we know that the load factor will be less. Also, all these advantages, we able to take it and we turn it sticking on the 25 minutes ground time. And honestly saying, the most of the time, we are able to achieve that.
Thanks, Yusuf. Ekkehart.
So I think one of the biggest problems is low revenue, too much regulations. Passengers, even if they would like to travel, they cannot travel. There's some difference perhaps in the cargo area, but I think another big challenge is volatility. It is, we all learned in a hard way, it's impossible to predict. Whatever we predict today, tomorrow we are proven wrong. And this means, I think from one side, that if I'm speaking as a supplier, if I'm speaking for software tools, that we probably have a shift now to more short-term planning. We need to react quicker. Long-term plans are very hard. So one part is we need a flexible resource management, which allows to allocate resources in real time whenever they are required. We need more cross-utilization. We need more support for our staff members with the right tools. And another aspect is if we are creating plans, if we creating resource management plans, they need much more resilient. They need to be able to handle the change, to cope with the change. And at the same time, we had layoffs of staff members. We have the immense cost pressure. We need increased efficiency. Also, this means we need to cross-utilize people. We need to utilize the people at as many places as possible to do multitask, to do multiple jobs, which also means they have sometimes less experience because it's a new part, what they're doing just now. More support from technology is required. And the last part, and this is what we also learned, and this is where machine learning prediction comes into the play. Situation has become complex. Old models don't work anymore. So the frequent use, learning from data, really helps to predict. And I think we also learned this outside of aviation. I think with daily figures and forecast models, we all became experts in data science. So I think COVID has proven the value of data to react efficiently and to fight the pandemic. Countries which were able to do this effectively, yeah, I think they were in a better position than perhaps countries who did it less effectively, as Germany. And I think the same is true. Learning from data, using from data, getting additional knowledge from data. What has been proven in COVID is also true in aviation.
Thank you, Ekkehart. A comment from David or Jan or Donald on that volatility and how you might see AI being of assistance here.
I think from my perspective that volatility is really one of the key aspects that are especially hard to handle, because nobody ever would have been able to predict what is happening to us now or what happened to us now. And even the smartest algorithm probably would not foresee something like this. I think that can be predicted, at least. The only thing is really, as Ekkehart mentioned already, I think the being flexible in your own processes, not sticking to, hey, we have done it ever since like this, so we cannot change it, is not really valid anymore. So coming from a software background, I think the importance of agile approaches is even more important also in the physical world, right? As also Yusuf said before, every second day you have another 1,500 page long manual about new regulations and new things, and you have to go through this, and these are complex documents, and sometimes these guys are experts that write these documents. Nevertheless, that does not prevent them from being contradictory in their own documents sometimes, right? Because it's a massive, complex thing that we are facing right now. So flexibility also in thinking and flexibility also in making use of data, as Ekkehart said, is vital to really let the organization and the operation breathe, right? Because airlines have scheduled, I don't know, 70, 80, 90, 100, 200, 400 flights a week. But then a week prior to the schedule, there are just 30 flights left, right? Because there's no booking for them. So that is really one of the issues, I think. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would actually like to second David and Ekkehart there. In the end, when I look at the aviation industry before Corona, it was an industry that was highly regulated, not regulated from a governmental perspective, but regulated in how things have been done. Like you had your standard operating procedures, and primarily the reason was for doing so in order to ensure safety, in order to ensure that every process was handled correctly. The underlying problem, why it was so, is because we were simply lacking the data. Now the question is, do I have to handle an A320 always the same? Or is it not that I could on one day handle it differently than on another day, always with the same overall goal, but according to what is the current situation on a day-to-day basis? And I think technology, especially the one we see today, helps us tremendously in understanding what is the current situation, but also in quickly adapting then this situation.
Thank you. And Donald.
Yeah, thank you. So I think my fellow panelists and speakers have already highlighted some of the key challenges. And as from a ground handling perspective, I think we all know data transformation, digital transformation to our processes have begun even before COVID, and we all ourselves have embarked in some way or another. But however, I think we all recognize that COVID has somewhat changed the parameters of us collecting those data and how we want to use those data. And like what you have asked earlier, what are the challenges that we face? I think from a ground handling perspective, the resurgence of COVID around different parts of the world have created very different entry criteria and regulatory changes every time at the airport. And then we see the resurgence in Asia now, and then suddenly we're from 14 days quarantine, we have 21 days quarantine, and then we have zone segregations in the airport. We are trying our very best to fit all this in with the data collected, and how do we carry out our operations safely protecting our frontline workers is actually our priority as well in this whole COVID situation. And then you are right, processes are now taking longer. We need to have contactless boarding. I think contactless boarding will be the new normal moving forward. And sanitization of aircraft has changed from now on. We are not going to see the regular run-of-the-mill cleaning of the aircraft. We're going to take longer to clean the aircraft. And the actions that we do on the aircraft and what are the sanitizations methods and technologies are some of those things that we are constantly looking out for and implemented to make sure that we build back the confidence of travel. And then, of course, with machine learning and data, I think this is going to power the next prediction that we have. I think SATS has last year implemented Inform's Workforce Plus solutions. And we are looking for that. I mean, Inform gives us that solution on ability to predict and also to run machine learning. To run machine learning on our resource and our equipments to help us to plan and optimize our resource better in this volatility. Now, in terms of volatility of schedules, I think for Changi as international hubs, in the short term, it is still quite predictable because we all know that flights are not departing. But on the longer term, we do not know that yet. So I think the volatility of the schedules, I think we can still manage. But I think with the data that we collect right now, if you ask me personally, it's not so meaningful because we don't see the flights coming in. But the good thing about some of this, the tools that we have for AI and machine learning is that we can put in scenarios to do the what-if planning to help us to plan when the point of recovery comes, what are the resources and optimization we need. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Donald. I mean, you touched on some of it there, but my next question for you was, identifying what the obvious and immediate quick wins with AI are, and how machine learning can help aviation operators boost their agility without necessarily adding resource. Who wants to go first on that one? Yes, Yusuf.
Okay, let me take the first place in the second question as well. Actually, our co-founder, Mr. Tony Fernandez, he believes in the power of the data, and this is well before from the COVID. Back in 2018, he did a partnership with Global Clouds. So it is 2 years ago, 2 years before COVID. It's 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. The aim for this is to integrate the machine learning and artificial intelligence into every aspect of our business and culture. And he wants our company AirAsia to transform as a travel technology company. In this context, we launched in 2019 the AirAsia Virtual All-Star Chatbot. We call it AVA. So which able to support 15 languages and able to manage 25,000 queries simultaneously. So in this context, the AVA has a proven and incredible support through the COVID period, and it's successfully able to handle and resolve maybe 80% of the requests coming from the customers that they need to change their flight is cancelled. So this was a when we see that the other call centers are being completely crashed down, we are able to still resolve the problems with AVA. And as I said before, we started this journey well before the COVID. COVID accelerated the things, but since 2018, we are in this direction.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I think technology, not only since COVID, but basically COVID has shown very well what technology can do to airports and airlines or to the aviation industry in general. Like take, for example, a company called Xovis, where they do crowd tracking and line management. Like before, it was helpful to plan for capacity in the terminal. But during COVID, it was actually super helpful and very valuable for airports to understand the minimal distances adhered to and so on and so forth. And I think when you look at the Yapron, you have your Inform system. With our system, for example, the immediate benefit, in my opinion, is that unfortunately the industry lost a lot of people during this pandemic, a lot of knowledge, trained people. And we all know that in certain areas, you cannot simply hire someone and within 2-3 weeks, you have him readily available to do a ground handling task. I think in this kind of capacity crunch, and make no mistake, our own analysis has shown that many airports around the world will face a capacity crunch this year. because yes, we have less traffic, but we also have less capacity and less availability. And in these times, you must understand your operations as much as possible. And therefore you need this technology, and technology must drive your future efforts in order to manage your operations.
Thanks, Jan. David, some quick wins.
Yeah, I think I want to bring in another perspective in terms of quick wins. I couldn't agree more to Jan-Willem with his statement. Also, this technology that we are able to apply now, and looking back, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, it was super complicated to really do stuff. Now it gets more and more, I would say, commonplace. Even not really super skilled people in IT are able to use this technology, and it brings a different facade with it, which is, it's like a magnifying glass about maturity of the organization. Where do people really understand what kind of data is floating around, what kind of data is necessary to make the right decisions? And that is what this technology also brings. It really sheds a light on what is going on there in the dark sometimes, right? Far too often we have the gut feeling of David, you know, why is it like that? Yeah, because I've seen it 500 times and I know it's exactly like that. But what is the reason behind? Is the reason a quirky process, or is the reason really something that can be grasped logically? And there the technology helps a lot. And their technology also is like a very, very honest mirror. It shows you how ugly you are or how beautiful you are in terms of taken from a data perspective.
Thank you, David. Ekkehart.
Yeah, I think I can, David, really underline what you are saying. So there is the application of, let's say, machine learning algorithms as a branch of AI, and this gives you an algorithm to predict something. But in addition, it also gives you additional insight, additional knowledge, which features are actually influencing, which are the most important ones. And this is another aspect of looking to data and let algorithms find relationships between features and goals. And another aspect, what I think has, in my experience, been proven well, even in this COVID time, is, of course, you can also create models, can do data science as a human. You can also manually analyze the data and create predictions. But one example where we really implemented machine learning models during COVID was to predict the water uplift in aircraft. Before COVID, it was mostly, we had stable load factors. It was mostly dependent on the aircraft, on the destination. Now in our passenger aircraft, there is cargo flying. Cargo needs less water. Flying too much water means we burn too much fuel. So suddenly being more accurate with the water uplift was an important thing, and it was not a topic before COVID. And what machine learning does, I don't think it's a super complex prediction to predict the water uplift, but you can do it with machine learning accurately, and you can do it automatically. And since you need to redo this because of all this volatility, you need to redo it often. So what we're doing now in our system is we let the machine learning algorithm react on all the changes. And then if we determine the water uplift, for example, just to give a small example, automatically predicted by an algorithm which is created by a computer.
Interesting stuff. Can we perhaps explore in a little bit more detail how then machine learning might help with this issue of volatile schedules? Because as you all mentioned, this is a fact of life at the moment and will be for some time. Maybe I'll start with you, Don, because you talked about how you're using technology and AI to address some of these challenges. Particularly, I'm interested to learn a bit more about, you've talked there, both David and Ekkehart, about, it's an intuitive system, it's easy to use. You can easily get hold of the information, model it. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you're doing that to react to such choppy schedules, Donald?
Yeah, thank you. So I think as a ground handler, our resource is actually the people servicing the flights and the different aspects of the flight that we have to provide the manpower to service the flight. And during the normal times of pre-COVID, we can all understand facing with a shortage of manpower and facing with a finite number of the equipments, but demands and soaring of the flights coming in. How do we then maximize and optimize the resources so that we don't have overutilized vehicles and men or underutilized vehicles and men? Well, this is where it comes in. Now, believe it or not, actually, the COVID was the best time for SATs to actually focus on implementing such projects. And why I find it, because suddenly our people have their time freed up. They don't have to focus so much on their flights, and they can really sit down and start to understand how to put in their knowledge onto the system and configure. And that was one of the takeaways we have when we implemented the Informed Workforce Plus solutions last year. I just want to mention here that, in fact, we did this remotely, entirely remotely. Delivery of the systems and implementation of the modules was done remotely. It was never done before in Inform's history and SAT's history. We have never had a system done remotely. And this was done remotely last year. And we begin to have, we begin to combine it with some of our IoT sensors that we put onto our non-motorized equipment in our fleet. We bring them together with the schedules that we deploy for our flights for the humans in the Workforce Plus, and then we combine them and we do a modeling through the Inform system. And it generated very significant, interesting results for us. Of course, we don't have much flights to talk about, so the results are quite predictable. But the beauty of the solution allows us to run what-if scenarios. So we could generate scenarios that are pre-COVID, after COVID, recovery phase. So we were generating different kind of scenarios and help us to plan and optimize the number of equipments, how fast we need to scale up our people, how fast we need to scale up our equipments, and how fast we need to change our processes to match the demands that is recovery. So this gives us a very good oversight and planning when we are entering the recovery phase.
Thank you, Donald. Any other comments on Jan-Willem?
Maybe one thing where I think is very straightforward, where machine learning can help is with predicting off-block times. Like for the last, I don't know, ancient years, you had your target off-block time. It's manually set. It's a best estimate, as David said before. It's something like, yeah, okay. Now we have two problems. A, the TOBT was not always right before COVID, and as I said, now we actually lost a lot of knowledge in the industry, so no one knows how the TOBT will look after COVID. And when we look at an ACDM framework, the TOBT is a pretty significant milestone. So why not predict it? And that's exactly what we did, where we said, okay, we take the data that we generate via our artificial intelligence computer vision system. We combine it with all kinds of data from Inform, from the AODB, whatever we can get our hands on. And then we created a machine learning algorithm that basically predicts when the aircraft will go off block. And we used it in a real life scenario at 2 airports. And we've seen that although, yes, it's still a prediction, so there are some differences to the actual off block time, but the actual mean error and even more importantly, the variance, the extremes have been much lower with our predicted off block time than with the target off block time. And the good thing is, because it takes so much information into consideration, it can also pretty quickly react on changing conditions like COVID. So I think that's, for me, is always a very good example how machine learning can help in such a case.
Yusuf.
Yeah, of course, we do also apply in the machine learning algorithms to our systems that I would like to say here is one is the meal prediction, the food that on board that we're going to serve. So we apply the machine learning algorithm to predict the meals based on a lot of different factors. If I name it, a few of them, we can say the number of passengers, the flight time, the flight duration, the destination, the demographic of the passengers. So when we apply this machine learning and we start testing and we start keep the data running and be able to reduce our mere vestiges nearly 50%. So it was a great effect to increase our sales, to remove the sold out problems, and as well as to remove the vestige. And now we are implementing this to the other onboard products, which is the duty free, which is the beverages, which is the other products to be sold on board. So we are aiming to have tangible weight savings from the aircraft. We already achieved, we want to achieve more tangible weight savings, and as well as the increased sales. So this product is successfully tested and we successfully implemented it.
Thanks, Yusuf. David, are you still tempted to trust your gut feeling once in a while, though? You know best.
Yeah, at least every morning I do when I get up. But so I think two aspects are very interesting. One aspect is, as Jan-Willem also said before, that there is no, personally, this is a very subjective view on the topic, but personally, I think there is no artificial intelligence without human intelligence. That means at the end, you will always have to incorporate, have to ask the people, you have to challenge the ground truth. And that only goes by going there, looking at it. And I can also second Donald here, who said during the pandemic, it was quite nice at the end, because we were able to do things that we were not able to do before, because I mean, departure lobbies were filled with people. People were always in process stress, right? Just get the stuff done, and that changed. The other part is that I think, especially for example, for an airport like Cologne, Bonn, we have bigger cargo. And more cargo than passengers probably from the volume, and we have lots of stuff moving around, lots of ground support equipment moving around, and to really see movement patterns, utilization of resources, that is especially interesting when you combine IoT data, tracking data, consumption data, utilization data, right? You don't have the tank lorry driver just putting the nozzle in every GPU that he finds, right? But he just goes to the ones that really need refueling, right? This itself is already, we will come to the topic, I guess, something that creates sustainability, and I can utilize the resource better, right? So here, prediction and algorithms help big time, because no one is really able to focus on the screen and say, hey, here's the movement pattern of Ekkehart. No, only a machine can do that. Right?
It's interesting you mentioned cargo, because I wanted to ask, and perhaps I'll come to you, Ekkehart, what specific applications you might see for AI and machine learning in cargo operations, which has become such a central focal point for our operations during this pandemic.
I think, and probably David, you will confirm this. Cargo has its specific challenges, and accurate predictions in the cargo business are more difficult compared to perhaps in the passenger world. This comes to the flight schedules. This is the behavior of the freight forwarders for collection, delivery, but it's also warehouse operations. To build a pallet can vary a lot. It's not just giving your boarding pass and then after whatever time you checked in or you boarded. So precise prediction in cargo is difficult, and this leads to some operational problems. And AI can definitely help in better insight, in better prediction. And I can give you one example from a large cargo and express customer from us. So we started 10 years ago with classical rules to predict something, and the rules were accepted. There was quite a lot of also manual override because things were different. And then what we did is we analyzed the manual overrule by machine learning. And then we applied this model. What is actually what the users wanted to do differently, what they did override, and this did reduce the manual override. It is by 80%, so the automation was increased a lot. And personally, I think it would have been impossible to ask somebody to give us the rules without an algorithm analyzing the data. And as a last sentence, I'm fully with David to combine the human and the artificial intelligence to have a meaningful model. So what we normally do when we implement artificial intelligence models is we analyze the data, we create a model, we use algorithms which are using explainable models, but then we sit together with the experts, the human intelligent experts, and we explain the model and we explain the features and we explain the decision strategy. And this gives additional insight and improves the model, and it's also helpful for the experts.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other thoughts on the application in cargo? Yes, Jan-Willem.
Yeah, I guess cargo, as Ekkehart said, is a bit specific. But what Corona or COVID has also shown us is how important, for example, the tracking of certain process chains are. So, for example, if you look into pharma cargo, into refrigerated cargo, you cannot keep, or you should not keep pharma cargo on the apron in the sun for too long. So, for example, especially when you have a 747 with a lot of ULDs and like you can lose oversight. And in the end, I guess it is important to predict and to optimize, for example, with the inform system, when is the best time actually to bring it to the aircraft, but then also when you are at the aircraft to have a system overlook the overall process, analyze in real time what happens when and where is maybe a time overstep, so to say. But I fully agree, and I think everyone here agrees, we are not in a time where the machines will take over the world. You will always need a human being that makes sense out of this whole suggestions that the systems make.
That's a relief to hear. Artificially intelligent conference chairman put them in. Gents, we have about 5 minutes left, and one question I'm really keen to come back on is this one around ROI and cost, because we know that that's going to be a huge factor in the decision-making process for all aviation operators, given the current operating conditions. So this technology, I'm sold. It sounds brilliant what it can do and the benefits you can generate. Can you talk a little bit more to us about how you address that, you look to make that decision as an operator who may be facing a low liquidity environment and trying to justify the investment cost in this new technology, and perhaps, Ekkehart, from you, how suppliers might help? Yes, David.
Yeah, let me start off then. I think it's at the end, it's again looking at data and making meaningful decisions, right? So how can I be more efficient? How can I gain more, or how can I spend less? It's at the end, at the bottom line, it's the same question. So that means also I have to make up the story, and not in terms of just tweak the numbers until they fit the bill, but really create a story around why is it necessary to do that, right? I'll give a very concrete example. We have to get the cargo in. I mean, we have to get cargo in the security area. So that means also for us, oh wow, there are long queues, and we are round about 1 million ton probably within this year, and that means also trucks need to come in, small lorries need to come in, vehicles need to come in, suppliers need to come in. All this happens, and we were kind of blind. And that also has a big impact on our customers on the premise. So that means creating a symbiotic ecosystem of the up and downstream partners within that whole thing that is called the airport is vital. And that means also I can, in terms of process costs, I have to clearly be able to tell this is what it costs and here's the benefit. And Personally, I think that is possible. And if the investment does not return, then scrap it, right? Only to use, hey, I read in the Sun that we have to have blockchain does not really solve your problem. So the ultimate beginning is ask the right question. The right question is always the starting point for really justifying ROI. Without the right question, yeah, you're on an endeavor without a map and without really a target. So yeah, telling the numbers is really important.
Thank you. And Ekkehart, on this topic of ROI and driving investment.
I think we heard before that the pandemic and the unfortunate low passenger figures, they are giving time now to focus on implementing the right tools, finding the right processes, things which beforehand were always pushed aside because operational pressure was too high. So I think the innovation we do today will help ground handler and an airline and airport to be, and I think David just explained it, in a much better position afterwards. It will help them now in this challenging, volatile recovery phase, but also afterwards. And I think we now did implement in record time compared to beforehand, more efficient measures, more transparency, more tools, and over this agility, I think will definitely stay. We will have shorter projects, and if you ask what is a supplier, how can we help our customers in this difficult situation, then Donald was saying the first fully remote implementation. So we are adapting, we are supporting as much as possible. And believe me, if somebody would have told me 2 years ago we implement something like that remotely, I would have said that's impossible, but it happened. And the other part is also from a financial aspect, payments models changed from big payments upfront to payment models which are more adapted, more pay-per-use models, more adapted to this situation.
Thank you, Ekkehart. Gentlemen, more comments on this issue of ROI and investment? Jan-Willem?
Yeah, I guess, especially what Ekkehart said in the end, as a vendor, it is absolutely critical in these times to be as flexible as possible without losing yourself in the process. What we, for example, did is we applied pay per go or pay per turn, actually, so that the lower turns you have, the less you pay, but therefore also the other way around. And even be creative, like we are currently thinking about building a marketplace where we actually sell the data that we generate to all stakeholders at an airport. And we offer this then to the ecosystem of the airport. And I guess also as a vendor, you have to make sure that you stay up to date with your own offering, with your own product technology. So for example, keep it as low IT key as possible, cloud-based, reduce the requirements for hardware and so on and so forth. Because in the end, as a vendor, you easily lose yourself in only looking at your license fees and your maintenance fees, but the total contract value also significantly is driven by hardware and by all the outside requirements, and that also drives ROI.
Thank you. Yusuf, you have a...
Yeah, in this context, SaaS and we are buying the services. So we have a different view. First of all, I mean, the ready-made systems are not fully fitting all the requirements of different operational concepts. So if it is 100% fitting the airline A, it doesn't necessarily fitting the airline B. And in traditional contracts, when these changes come, it always comes with the cost. Okay, it never comes for free. And then when you deal with the large contracts, you have always the a huge fee that you need to pay on start, and you have the monthly maintenance fee, you have the user fee, you have the change request fee. So it goes phenomenal. It goes and goes and goes and goes. So it never stops there. Okay. So there is no flexibility, and if the product is the market leader, no flexibility because he is the market leader. So in this context, we always try to work with the different vendors. We support the business which is around the airline, but at the same time, we are trying to find out our own solutions. As I stated before, our co-founder, Mr. Fernandez, signed a contract with Google Cloud. We are pushing all our data to the relative tables from all our systems, from aircraft communication systems, aircraft monitoring systems, flight information systems, sales systems, reservation systems, and we are pushing millions worth of data in respective tables. So we are first believing that we need to take from those tables, put them in a numerical form, which is going to predict something to us, which is going to bring some value to us. And then later on, if we can collaborate with any of the vendors which has some interest in, then it may be a joint venture. Why not? But to buying a single product and trying to use it for our own benefits, honestly saying, it is not fitting 100% our purpose.
Thank you, Yusuf. And Donald, this is obviously something that you have supported and see a benefit of deploying. So can you tell us a little bit more about your process in doing that and how it's been rewarded?
Actually, I can just sum up in one sentence.
Fantastic.
If I can just take the same amount of time with the same amount of resources from servicing 5 flights to service 6, 7, 8 flights, then I think there's a clear case of ROI return for us for the technology that we want to implement. But I also want to encourage that ROI is not just about increasing the productivity, helping the company to save money. It's also about helping us as customer to recognize how can we improve the safety of our frontline workers. How do we make our offering sustainable in terms of the technology that we deploy? So if you can package all of this into the solution and help your customers to see that, I think that will be a clear ROI for us to be able to adopt.
Thank you very much. And Donald, thank you very much to you all for your contributions. We could carry on talking until the cows come home, I'm sure, because there's plenty more to get our teeth into. But if you're interested in some of the discussion points and this topic of AI and what it can do for you, then Ekkehart is the man to talk to and to send out any emails through. And I'm sure, Ekkehart, you'd be happy to answer them and give people some more information. But this is something that's not going to go away, as we've discussed, and the landscape has changed, and AI is there to help us adapt to it. So for now, thank you all very much. Appreciate your time this morning from joining from various places around the world, and enjoy the rest of the conference. And we'll see you later. Thank you all, gentlemen, very much. We're going to move on now to our next session to keep things on time.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Bye-bye.
Guys, bye-bye.